Garnacho off the bench, put the ball in the top corner. Muted celebrations from him, Crookie. Been receiving quite a lot of criticism in recent performances. Listen, he wasn't good against Chelsea. A lot of bad decision-making. Wasn't good, particularly against Pauk. It happens, but here's a player who is our top scorer. He's got more goals and assists at the minute than people like Michael Olise, people like Bukayo Saka. Not saying he's better than these players, but just for context of where he is right now. Played an awful lot of games for Man United at a young age. Been asked to do a lot because a lot of senior players haven't done what they're supposed to do. Do fans need to get behind Garnacho more? Do we need to remember that, he's young, he's raw, he's given his all, and he's growing?
I think match-going fans are behind him. I think he gets a very good reception whenever he comes on. He's particularly popular with the youngsters. My two boys absolutely adore him. I'm disappointed in some ways that he's allowed one individual who clearly is trying to make a name for himself and his own social media to get into his head in the way that he did. I understand he's a young player and you need to protect your young players, but I think also if you're going to play for a club of the stature of Manchester United, whatever age you are, you have to be thick-skinned enough, you have to be mentally strong enough to take all that and to answer in the right way. Now, you can say he did answer in the right way because he scored a fantastic goal. I think he's got all the raw materials to be a genuinely top-class player. And again, I think once Amorim comes in and he tutors him, I think we're going to see the best of Garnacho. But I was disappointed that he didn't celebrate in the usual manner in front of the Stretford end because of this one individual. I'm also disappointed that Bruno Fernandes actually felt the need to highlight it. I think as captain, and the other senior players in the dressing room should have been, put an arm around Garnacho, but say, come on, don't worry about this fool.
Do you think that he
remember all the other fans who do sing,
Do you think he was maybe worried, maybe Bruno spoke about it because... I agree, because a part of me thought we don't really even need to speak about it, but did he maybe think, are people going to start questioning his heart for Man United? Maybe scrutinising it a bit more, so maybe he wanted to take the narrative away, I'm not too sure. But I agree with you, I think that it didn't really need to be brought up, but the way that they were all, around him and stuff. And I think for Garnacho, the thing that shows what a class act the guy is, there's also videos on social media of a little boy who was chanting his name for the whole game. End of the game. The guy's clearly not feeling great about himself. He goes, gives the little lad a hug, gives him his shirt, he's crying. That's exactly what it's about. And even the situation that we're all aware of, he was doing his bit, signing autographs for kids. You mentioned those stats, with Saka and Foden. His goals and assists are in the same bracket of Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, Michael Olise, Kylian Mbappe. So some of the big names in European football. But he is between 2 to 5 years younger than them. He's only 20. These players are 22, 23, up to 25. Rafael Leao is also in there as well. And it's like, if he is keeping up with those huge names in a tumultuous situation. He's being switched from left to right to accommodate for someone who's not as good as him at the minute in Marcus Rashford. And he's still providing us with what we need. What more can you ask for from the guy? So I really hope that it doesn't, this international break, he manages to kind of shrug it off and he just continues doing what he's doing. Because for a 20-year-old, what he's achieving and the names that he's keeping up with, it's exceptional.
Crookie, does he start under Amorim? Where does he fit in?
Brilliant question. I don't think Rashford does, either in terms of the type of player he is or on form. I guess you could make an argument the way Højlund's playing that maybe Rashford's worth a go as a central striker, but we know that he doesn't particularly like that position. But there's a bit of a misconception, I think, that the 3-4-3 is going to be two wide players either side of a number 9. It isn't that, and I'm sure we'll hear from our Portuguese-based journalist later. It's two number 10s in behind a number 9. So clearly Bruno Fernandes is going to be one of those number 10s. I think Mason Mount, if he can get fit, actually could benefit from that system.
As well, that position.
Ahmad obviously is playing really well. So in terms of Garnacho, it's a difficult one. I mean, I think you have to try and find a way to accommodate him because I do think genuinely he's got all the talent in the world.
But then that means, like you're saying there, Amorim's going to have to adapt because you can play a 3-4-3, which would be wingers either side of a 9, or the 3-4-2-1, which is like the 10s.
And could you play Garnacho as a false 9? If you're talking about Rashford in that position,
either or. If you're looking at Garnacho and Rashford, it can only be A or B. Either Amorim is going to say, well, they are traditional wingers. I've got to adapt here. I've got to adapt by having them high and wide with a striker. That's just what I've got to do. So I've got to have to...
This club is built on wingers,
and this club is built on wingers. So, and he talks about being able to adapt and being able to, you know, change things and work out what... A good manager can come in and work out what the right thing to do is. Either he's going to have a look at them in training or have a word with them and think, I can mould you into these inside 10s. Off the ball, I need you there. When we get the ball, I don't mind you going high and wide, etc. Maybe a bit of a hybrid system. Or he goes... Nah, they're too good. They're too good of wingers for me to come in. This isn't Sporting. This isn't Trincao and the other guy, I can't remember his name. This isn't them. Who I've got here, they're high and wide. I've got to make this work. Angelina, how important is that for Amorim to do that? To sort of say, with what I've got, it's best that I have Garnacho and Rashford here, and actually maybe even Bruno might go one back. We don't know. How important is it for him to be flexible? Or should he just come in and say, no, this is what I want. If the players here don't fit into this, see you later.
I think it all depends on what kind of mentality this guy has, but I feel like he's spoken already about how it's easier for him, I think, to come in and kind of do things his way and then assess it as he goes. I mean, if this is something that he wants, if this is his style of play, if this is what is going to be successful, then we need to just bite the bullet and do it, because the thing that I always think is, if he starts accommodating for these players, we know that the players' mentality has been called into question quite a few times. And if he starts, I'm not saying that this is, 100% true, but if he starts being like, oh, well, maybe we'll accommodate for this person and that person, do we then go back into that thing of the players thinking, oh, we're getting our way here? Yeah, he wants to play that formation, but
he's changing it to accommodate us.
Yeah, he's changing it to accommodate for us. We can still run the show.
But could he be changing it for the better of the team? Could Amorim go, this is what will work with...
I think it's why he changes it. If he changes it because of the players and they're not able to adapt and they're not happy about it, that's the wrong reason. If he gets there and he assesses these players and thinks how I can get the best out of them, then fair enough, let him tweak it. But I think it's got to be his decision and not the players' decision.
Let's talk about Mazraoui, because 12 million, Crookie, absolute steal. He was excellent against Leicester. He's been really steady and solid for us ever since he's walked through the doors at Old Trafford. You're talking about him potentially being a left wing back or right wing back or anywhere really. How important is he to Ruben Amorim, and how impressive have you been? Really
impressed. I mean, he was probably the least heralded of the summer signings.
Sort of the most quiet, just, we've got this guy.
But I think right from his first night at Old Trafford against Fulham, I thought, well, there's a player here. He was more progressive than Wan-Bissaka. He was strong in the tackle. He was committed. He was wholehearted and full of energy. And I think they're all the credentials and attributes that Ruben Amorim will look for. So I think the new manager and his system is made for Mazraoui. And at the moment, Manchester United as a club looks made for Mazraoui. I spoke to him, as you know, after the Chelsea game. I found him a very bubbly, upbeat, positive individual, which, considering what had been going on behind the scenes, maybe he could have been forgiven for being a bit forlorn, given the fact that Ten Hag signed him and wasn't there anymore. So I'm really positive about him. Hopefully it'll get the best out of Dalot as well, because, again, I thought he was poor at the weekend.
Isn't he? Yeah. Like, in general, and Ruud saw it to hook him. Like, Angelina, he's played an awful lot of games, Dalot. This is probably the negative side of the show. We've got to talk about it, because there's a few performances. We're looking at Dalot, Rashford, Højlund struggling. Let's talk about some of the struggles that we've got in the side. But on Dalot, fantastic last season in a really poor season for Man United. Played an awful lot of games. I don't know what you think, but when I look at him, I see someone who's like mentally and physically shot. I know he's better than what he's producing. He showed that, but like his touch isn't crisp, his anticipation and his reading of the game, which is usually quite sharp, it just doesn't seem to be there right now. Is it fatigue from him?
Maybe it could be. I mean, he does seem a little bit tired. I get what you mean. He doesn't look as sharp as we're used to. I don't think that you completely write him off, because I think he's been a great servant to the club. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Is this a case of, we get him back playing the way that we know, and is he one of those players that ends up getting moved on for good business if we're going to bring somebody else in? I'm not too sure. But I think that Amorim should definitely, I think we've got to wait and see how he works with him. But I think regarding those wing-backs, it's a massive debate and a massive discussion. And one thing that was in the back of my mind, because I was thinking about, Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malacia, who have gone. I don't know where Luke Shaw is.
He's back in training. That's
allegedly. Malacia.
We saw pictures. He's there.
Malacia, I saw the videos of him hitting a punching bag, so I don't know if he's had a career change. I don't know what he's up to. But I look at somebody like, Harry Amas. He's, 17 years of age. You look at the way that Amorim has managed to convert the 17-year-old, forget his name. Quenda, yes. Giovanni Quenda, thank you. Yep. The way that he's managed to convert that 17-year-old, I think one massive positive is for the youth of this team. And somebody like Harry Amas, could he end up being, I'm not saying to throw him in next week, but, in, another season or two, could this be somebody that we look at as the future on that left-hand side, perhaps? And I think that's one of the massive positives is, what he can do with the youth. But I agree, Dalot hasn't been great. He wasn't the only one, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with these names that are kind of just not really clicking. Yeah. Under Ruud, we saw a couple of names start to click. The ones that have kind of been left behind, I'm interested to see what he's going to do with them.
It says all you need to know where Marcus Rashford is at this moment.
That was going to be my next question.
The 8 England players have pulled out the squad. And there's no suggestion, no clamour.
Not a good look.
Where is he at,
to be recalled?
Because I spoke to people after the game on Sunday, and my own view of it was as well, because where I sit in the first half, I get a really good look at the left wingers and left fullbacks, depending on what side. I sit at the front near Sir Alex Ferguson, so you can always see. I felt sorry. Like I know, like he's had his chances, and we're doing this with Marcus, but I looked at him and he just looks so scared. Like every single touch he took against Leicester, I felt was like, let me control it safe side, roll it back to where it just came from. He had one time when he tried to go on a dribble and it just went straight out of play for a throw-in. And then from that point on, he didn't even get the ball and look at James Justin to say, I'm going to go at you, I'm going to make you honest today. It was all safe. If you're cutting in and trying crosses that weren't quite on. And I don't know, there's this uncomfortable thing where he almost looks like a relieved figure when he gets subbed off now. That, it's not even the sulking or the hunger, it's like, just get me out of this. He just looks really in a bad spot. And a lot of people were saying to me afterwards that they felt sorry for him because he just doesn't, he's a shell of himself. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I mean, I think his confidence has clearly been affected. There have been moments this season, Porto away, when he was hooked at half-time.
Yeah.
One of Ten Hag's more baffling decisions was probably his best 45 minutes of the season.
Exactly.
But it's been a steady decline. I looked at his record, after the Qatar World Cup, because I was having a disagreement with somebody about the form that Rashford has been in since that World Cup, and Jack Grealish. And actually, he came back and he was brilliant after that World Cup. He scored 24 goals in the second half of that season.
He's brilliant, mate.
And he's barely scored a goal since. So this has been a slow but long decline. Obviously, Ten Hag tried to put his arm around the shoulder. He tried to be the disciplinarian by dropping him for games when he was late for team meetings. Nothing really seemed to work. So I think that's one of Ruben Amorim's biggest challenges, because he's the poster boy for the academy. He's the top wage earner now, I believe, alongside Bruno Fernandes. Nobody else is going to take him. You can forget about Paris Saint-Germain. I think those links were only ever really coming from his camp. So Amorim's got to find a way to get him back to his best, or we're going to be talking in a few years' time about a career unfulfilled, and that would be really sad. But I do think maybe Marcus Rashford needs to look at what he's up to off the pitch. Is he keeping himself in the best physical condition to get the best out of his capabilities? That's going to be a factor as well.
Angelina, can he do it? Is it a matter of fresh start now, clean slate? Amorim can come in and because there's no doubt that a manager coming into this football club would see Marcus Rashford as a player that, I've got a player there, I can. Us as fans, we've gone on the journey of, might need something different. But I don't know what you think, but I think that Ruben Amorim will be excited at the prospect of working with Marcus Rashford. It's just whether he understands what Marcus Rashford is on the other side of that, and can he get something out of that?
It's a hard one. In my mind, I feel like it's game over.
Really?
I feel like it's done. Because to be completely honest, and this might sound quite harsh and maybe a little bit selfish, but if this is someone who is not interested, and I don't know, because I don't know Marcus Rashford, maybe his attitude comes across, like you said, he's kind of relieved to be subbed off, like there's something not clicking there. I would rather Ruben Amorim spend time with the players that I think he can get something out of, like Ahmad, like Garnacho, working with someone like Højlund, even working with someone like Joshua Zirkzee, even though I struggle to see how he's going to fit in this team, I'll be honest. than... I'm not going to say waste time with Rashford, but what else is there to do? I would rather him focus time on the people that we know we can get something out of. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, so looking at it at the other angle, it depends what kind of person Amorim is. Is he someone who does put an arm around the shoulder?
Exactly.
Is he going to sit down and have a meeting? But I feel like Ten Hag did that.
He did. He got the best out of him in the first season, didn't he?
And Ten Hag, even this season, you know, clearly was playing him to try and help his confidence. And I think did his best with the situations that were going on off the pitch. That's one thing I'll say about Ten Hag. I don't think, you know, he didn't throw him under the bus with any of that type of stuff. I really think he tried to protect him. And, you know, how many more times can we go through this? And that's why I'm starting to think, you know, you say it's time to cut the cord. I always say that, but I don't know how you cut the cord because, like you say, no one's going to want him and no one's going to pay those wages. So it's very sad. And the bottom line, if Ruben Amorim gets something out of him in that Ipswich game, he scores a hat-trick, I'll take it all back because I want Marcus Rashford to do well.
Yeah, we don't enjoy seeing him like this.
It's not fun, it's sad.
And it's not a witch hunt, by the way, because he's not the only Manchester United player whose standards have slipped.
Absolutely.
But I think he's the one that we all thought was the genuine superstar.
Everyone's
that comes with pressure. But we all want him to do well. He's a United fan. That's what hurts me as well.
Yeah.
He's a Manchester United fan, and when I see him walk past young Manchester United fans and barely bring himself to acknowledge them, when I see him playing in that red shirt without a smile on his face, he's living out all our dreams.
And it doesn't look visually like he is. Yeah. And lastly, in complete contrast, Amad Diallo. Amad Diallo. I mean, Angelina, he's been here a while. He's such a humble kid. Bided his time, gone on a couple of loans to Rangers and Sunderland, respectively, really well at Sunderland. He's just in his element right now, isn't he?
Yeah, it's such a delight to see because I think I went into this season thinking this is going to be his season where he's going to need to show up or we're going to be asking questions of how many years has he been here? What have we seen? Are we, you know? It's such a delight. It's such a delight to see him play, how much he enjoys it. Even, you know, with the Leicester game, you know, he doesn't even necessarily have to score, but he's still really effective. I just really enjoy seeing him play, and I think that when you looked at the Pout game, it was very much, you know what, Ten Hag, if you're watching, you thought that Anthony was better than me. I'm going to show you why you were wrong and why you're sat at home now and I'm here doing this. It was I was really happy for him, and yeah, I love seeing him play, and I hope that we continue to see him grow this season because he's a real talent.
He's a nice kid as well.
He's anytime you're out, he's always so humble. He's always so happy. You know, he's got many quotes now, sort of saying, "I want to stay here for a very long time." I think when we was on tour and he was in the presser, he said, "I want to stay forever." Is what he said. Bless him. So he's one of them, isn't he? But just back to Amorim, just really quickly with Amad, he's got two choices as well, Amorim, because does he look at what's happened in the recent games to try and get a tune out of the consistent bunch that have been playing, or does he go blank canvas? I need to get Garnacho and Rashford.
It's going to be fascinating.
Bruno.
That first team sheet. I think he's a manager who's going to want to make his mark straight away. That first team sheet of Portman Road is going to be really telling. But Amad has to be in it. I tweeted after the Pout game, Amad has to start against Leicester. No questions asked at all. And obviously he has responded. Brilliant assist for the first goal for Bruno. If you're talking about wingers, he's the most informed out of those three players, him, Garnacho and Rashford. If he plays with two out-and-out wingers, again, Rashford's going to be the one who should miss out on form, isn't he?
Yeah, well, we will see. And Amad, long may it continue.